Dun, dun. Hey everybody, D here, and welcome to this week's discussion of Alien Earth. We're talking episode 4, Observation. And joining me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend from Smirking Gun Reviews, it's Rob Stone.
I just cheered myself. Oh, God. Sorry. Yes, it's me. I'm taking a break from video games to talk about an excellent TV show.
Yeah. Excited to get into this week's episode. Not so much for the episode itself, though. Good episode. I think, again, kind of like last week's, we're moving chess pieces into position. And, you know, we're getting some interesting questions being asked. But last week after a review, I was shot a little note over to Rob on a question that I had that I didn't get a chance to jump into. And that was the idea of ownership. Specifically, we know that we're keeping the kids, the hybrids are all supposed to be dead. And we touch onto that a little bit more in tonight's episode. But the question is, like, why? Why are they dead? Why are their parents think that they're gone? Is this a prototype thing? Is this a possession thing? You know, why? What are the mechanics that Prodigy is going into? And interestingly enough, we dive into a lot of those bigger discussions with tonight's episode. So before we jump into that, I do want to kind of get a general overview on what you thought about this week's episode and the mechanics. And I don't know, kind of felt like a messing with the kids episode. But what did you think?
Look, again, it's a really another great solid episode of this show. Visually, it's stunning. The acting is all there. I there was a part though of getting where we were talking, or I was thinking about what we're going to talk about, because I feel like we've nailed all of the what's behind the meaning of so much of this already in 3 episodes. That what is this episode saying that we have something new to say about it?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, like you said before we went on, it's kind of like moving the pieces in place. So that way, you know, like we're going to have that big jump next week to tell the story of what happened in space.
Right.
And after this episode, I'm glad we're doing that. Because this show is missing one. This episode, to me, highlighted a problem that I'm having with it. And it's just me, maybe. We've talked many times about when the plot versus the character,
mm-hmm.
when the plot things start to happen just because they need it to. And then the characters start acting in ways that they wouldn't.
Right.
Or they're not telling us, or they know something that we don't. Listening to the podcast, I kind of had this a little bit confirmed, at least for me, where they talk about Nibs, that
right.
She had this conversation with Noah Hawley about her character's backstory and how she had been through some previous bad trauma, that going to the crash site triggered, like the attack in the crash site triggered that trauma that dove her into the delusions that she's having in episode 4.
Sure.
But they don't tell us any of that. We have no idea. That is only between her and the creator of the show. And it led me to now that they explained that, like, that wasn't the part that was bothering me. That just was the part that made me go, okay, this is what's happening in behind the scenes. How many conversations did Holly have with each one of these actors about their backstory that they're not showing us? And so when things happen, you're like, to me, at least, I'm going, why is this happening? Why is the character acting this way? And for me, it was the character of Slightly that I can't reconcile right now.
Sure.
Because they talk about how, oh, he's looking for this father figure. Okay, but we don't know that. And the character we were presented with in the first few episodes was a character who can't keep his mouth shut, can't keep secrets. So why is he keeping this one when he's just a big old blabbermouth?
Sure.
And if they're having conversations about this, then what I really think this show is missing is, especially because this isn't a cut up movie.
Oh no, definitely a series.
But it flows like one giant movie with different directors taking different things. The structure of it, I mean, they were doing scenes from, it sounds like they were making episodes on top of each other. Like, I was listening to the director of this episode was like, okay, my scenes were all done from different episodes. They were working on this all over the place. And what I think what this show should have had for each of the Lost Boys and girls is something that tells us who they were before.
Sure.
I don't need to see exactly what happened to Nibs to get the gist of why her delusion would kick in, and it would go so far as to talk about immaculate concepted birth in a synth person. The same as how I would have liked to know why a blabbermouth suddenly can keep the biggest secret on the show. Now, they do have the scene where we know Kirsch knows.
Yeah, finally.
That brings up a whole other kettle of fish of like what his motivations are. But that's talking about his motivations. And so when I don't believe that your character would keep the secret that's going to cause one of the biggest cruxes of your plot, that's plot happening for the sake of the story and not for the characters. And that's where I get this itch in my brain that I can't reconcile with.
Sure.
When you have to make something happen that doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, and I have to agree. As much as I love this show, I tell my wife every week, I'm like, there is something that's not syncing right here, and I don't know what it is, which is why I generally don't bring it up, because I don't want to be like, there's something not right, and I don't know what it is. That's not very helpful. But one thing I have been concerned about is, I think it does touch onto your point right there, is that it's juggling too much. It's trying to do too many things, and is it going to be able to sort them all out? And I think that idea of these hybrids and their growth and their trauma and how they're dealing with all things on top of this alien, recovery and nightmare that's going to happen, as well as the corporate talk and the world structures. It's like, I get concerned that they're dealing with too many things to focus properly. And sometimes it oversimplifies scenes where it just feels like, Disney went in and was like, that's too complicated. Dumb that all down about 2 grade levels and get to the point a little quicker. Has a feel to that sometimes. But in regards to the kids, they get very clearly on that they're constantly being observed, and they're recording all their eye stuff, and they're on that. However, that only works when they want it to. And when it doesn't, they cast that aside. You had the scene a couple episodes ago when Boy is talking to Kirsch, and he's just like, how's it going? Oh, I have 3 of them with me. Just imagine that I can see and that I know everything that's going on right now. Oh, is Wendy with you? No. Well, where is she? It's like, you should know. You just said that you're watching everything that they do. And yet when you don't want to keep an eye on things, they're gone. They made a lot of scenes with Kirsch in the background and slightly and doing his things and stuff like this. But all of a sudden, when he has a conversation, nobody's around and nobody's watching and nobody's hearing things. Even when we get to the scene with Nibs, who, she's obviously had a traumatic experience. That is one thing they do play very well, that she's all in her head and that she's trying to process. And I don't necessarily need to know about her trauma background to be able to follow that. But even in that scene, Dame Syvlia is like, oh, it's been a while since we talked. Like, you should be on top of all these guys all of the time. When she has to do the little secret and hit the button I liked, but then she's got to give these commands, I'm kind of like, aren't they watching? Shouldn't this be recording? Should he look like an overhead of Arthur? Like, what the fuck was that? We need to get that locked in. You know, the communication just, again, it pulls me out, I think, is what it is these little moments which seem inconsistent so that we can get both the story and the plot syncing up and moving. It is not always as smooth as I think that it should be. And I think those moments, because then I stop and go, well, that seems weird, or, well, why didn't they know about that? Or, you know, it just, again, it pulls me out. And I think that that's the thing that's, as well as everything else is done, that is the one I think that's what frustrates me, is these little moments of inconsistency of let's get this moving on top despite all of our big ideas, gets a little lost.
Yeah. And it's just, it does like take me out of it when I'm so pulled in. Because I was trying to think of like, well, okay, because I would have thought that maybe, because Shmi doesn't really have much to do, and I would have thought that Morrow's in, and as cliche as it is, I mean, I'm surprised that to me, it could have been like, hey man, you know, like, I don't know, that since they're blank slates. Anyway, I didn't want to belay all that inside a bunch of other, like, why didn't they, like, they shut down, they seem to be able to shut them down at a moment's notice. So why didn't she have the ability to turn Nibs off?
Yeah, that's the other thing. They obviously talk about the control they have with Wendy and controlling her hearing and things like that. Is they are implying right there is, we have this control over you.
There shouldn't be a conversation when she walks up to Arthur and herself and says, I'm pregnant. Oh, let's go have a meeting. And Arthur's just kind of standing there. No, she should have said, okay, we're going to go have a meeting. And she should have looked at Arthur like, you need to, like, we've got to coordinate this. When we get there, you shut her down. We isolate her and try to figure out what happened.
Or at least be on top of comms and control. Yeah.
Yes. For drama's sake, here we are having this like conversation that goes on about, you know, that's just drama for drama's sake of her losing it and showing like how she doesn't, you know, they don't even understand, like the people who made them are kind of forgetting that these are powerful people. They're children that don't know their own strength. They, you know, and one's now had a psychotic break. Your experiment in front of you is telling you she's pregnant. She's having a psychotic break in front of you, and you want to have a therapy session. No, I just didn't buy it. That took me out of it too. And it's like, yes, the scene's very dramatic, but like you have a couple of security guards leading her to her room, and if she wanted to, she could snap those two guys in two. And I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't match. It's like, yeah, of course she's going to follow him because she doesn't think anything's wrong. And thank God that she didn't sense your nervousness or whatever the heck that's going on. That's fine. But you're right. They don't seem to have the protocols to deal with these things, despite the fact that that's what apparently this whole entire, research facility is kind of dedicated for.
I mean, yeah, they're having a conversation about if things go bad. It just did in front of you. So anyway, hey, Bill in the chat. Hey, Warren in the chat, just to make sure you guys know where we actually see and hear you.
Yes.
You commented, so now we can probably get to the stuff that didn't pull us out of it.
Well, they get to play with a real interesting kind of concept here. And this is kind of like the theme of what I was hoping our discussion would be along the lines of today. And I've brought this up in previous discussions on previous shows, but we get a lot of the idea, a lot of the focus around here is the idea of who is a person, or who do we consider a person? And there's an obvious idea is we have cyborgs and synths and hybrids and humans are definitely people, and synths are definitely not their machines. What is a hybrid? What is a cyborg? Where are the lines these? Again, when is machine not a machine?
And property.
Yeah, well, let's throw that around. When is a person not a person? And by that, I mean, look, we all like people. We're going to protect people. People deserve to have, the benefit of the doubt, and people deserve to have this, and people deserve to have that, as we talk about in our conversations. But we're often very much talking about a subset of people, our particular group, let us say. And some people, citizens versus non-citizens, if we want to bring it into current events. Well, a person deserves these things. My group, those other people, well, they don't deserve it because they're takers, or they think differently, or they're commies, or they're fascists, or they're whatever. Very often, just in our conversation, we tend to delineate people to be a particular subset. And this gets kind of blown up in a bigger proportion when we deal with somebody like Boy Kavalier. Because Boy Kavalier ain't a millionaire, he ain't a billionaire. He's a trillionaire. He is literally a head of state. There are 5 corporations. They rule the earth. They're effectively the new governments. Yeah. He is the head of state. And who he's going to consider people is it going to be a very small group. I don't know any billionaires, but I know people that have worked for billionaires. They see the world in an entirely different way than we do. Their idea of people for him is Utani. That's a person. It's a competitor, but it's a person because it's at his level. Everybody else that works underneath him is property, is vassals for him to command. They are beneath him. And it is extremely obvious the way that he deals with everybody in this show, whether it be Kirsch, again, definitely a piece of property. Hybrids, well, that was the question. Are they property or are they people? Well, definitely on this episode, they're property. They are owned by Prodigy. They're prototypes. But even Joe, a flesh and blood human being, he's not a person. He's property. He's an employee. He's down there. He's there to serve. He is at my beck and call, and I can manipulate his life however much that I want. When he's going after Wendy and he's like saying, oh, your brother didn't come. And we just had the scene where Joe is saying, I was trapped on the other side of the earth. I had a job. I had a thing. I couldn't get away. Something you and me all understand. Boy Kavalier, there's nothing standing in his way. If I wanted to be there, nothing would have stood in my way. I would have been there. Why? Because he's massively wealthy and powerful and can do whatever the hell that he wants. And I guess even when we get to the point of like Morrow and Slightly, is Slightly a person to Morrow? Even if he knows that he's a boy, not is separating his synth body, but is he a person? No, he is a tool to be manipulated to achieve the ends that we want. We are nice at this point, and then we will turn on a heartbeat because this is not a person deserving of actual respect. It is a tool to achieve an ends.
And he's just thinking this is a tool with a child's mind. So I just gotta treat this tool like I would my kid.
Well, and the amount of taking advantage of these children is a subset, but still inclusive in this. From Morrow's to Kavalier's, threatening of Wendy is, oh, I could take your boy away. Oh, you do this. Morrow plays on Slightly's desire to be a hero, his childhood mindset, in order to manipulate him. And I think that's one of the real disturbing things with this idea of the hybrids and the child's minds. Is like, you guys are manipulating children to achieve your giant ends, and you don't even consider them like people children. So it gives a real interesting kind of point of view on looking on this, is who in this are considered other people to the people around us. And I think what we find out is generally from a top bottom. If you're on the top, the people beneath you are not people. And we like to play with the idea is, what is the line with the hybrids? And Kavalier gets in with Joe on this when he's asking, oh, is it your sister? It has her memories, or it is, but do you think it's your sister? That's not a philosophical conundrum. That's a product test. Have I sold you? Have I sold you the illusion of your sister? I mean, maybe it's your sister, maybe it's the illusion, maybe it's an AI that thinks it's human, as Arthur was going on with Syvlia there in the concern. What is it that we made? And ultimately a point to who does it even matter? Because again, person or object, it's still a possession for Boy Kavalier. And the only sympathy we get is Wendy when she looks at the aliens and wants to consider them people. We should let them go. We should take them home. Why do we have them? We shouldn't have them. Nobody else obviously sees things that way. They are definitely a possession. But that, to me, becomes the really interesting question again throughout all of this, is who considers who a person. And I think from that we can determine how they're actually going to treat. Nobody is going to treat the hybrids like people unless they believe they're actually people, like Joe does. Joe sees his sister. She is now a person in his mind, not an object.
Although he was silent when push came to shove of, do you really think this is your sister? And he doesn't answer because he doesn't know what to say, and he's probably afraid to say, because he's like, sometimes she's Marcy, sometimes she's Wendy to him, and
sure,
she's got superpowers and she can make the noises of these creatures. He's looking at an alien himself. He's seeing his sister, but something else at the same time. And how do you differentiate? Or is she just more? Is she a person just more now?
Right.
And as a regular person, faced with something you can't wrap your brain around, how do you truly answer that? There really isn't a good, you can't really answer that question.
No, I mean, again, it becomes more of a philosophical. Is there a line, blurry or sharp, that crosses from other to group? What is the difference? What is that line of emotion and feeling and a reaction that says this is a person and not just a really good AI?
And also person and the eye creature. I mean, wherever it comes from, right? Is it a person? Why a life form that has inhuman intelligence? It doesn't look like us. It can't communicate like us. But does that make it any less of a life form to be respected? You know what I mean? This is all kinds of just intense stuff. And I mean, even then, with the way we are here on our own planet and our own situation, how we, you talk about the billionaires and how they see the rest of us, and then on our level, how we're manipulated into seeing other people around us as not people or less than us for whatever reason.
And that, and again, and that doesn't even, and all this kind of links together to the idea of really transhumanism, what the hybrids are really all about, the concept of, and it's what Musk talks about, and a lot of the tech bros is, you know, can we put our minds into robot bodies and thus we can live forever? You know, and it's interesting how Kavalier is dealing with the hybrids, because it's like, how much is it going to be? Yes, I am selling this thing so that people will buy, and I will have robots that will be eternal customers. And how much of that is boy going, I want to prove that it's good so that I could thus live forever.
Yeah, who's this really for?
Right. And
Because
ultimately,
it's not
does
going
that
to be available to Joe Q public. You know, like they're not going to be able to afford this. This is technology that is for the 1% to live forever.
Yeah, exactly. It's for our little group. And in that, we even have that class idea of who is a person. It's not that you're a hybrid and thus you're a prototype, and mine is, well, yeah, but you're just this lowly worker.
And yeah, and when
Child
all
that
the
I was
rich
able
are,
to use to experiment. We need to know it works on you experimental animals before we're even going to bother trying on the likes of the greatness of I.
yeah, building their own godlike bodies so that they can literally become they won't eat. We will be. They won't even be people anymore, but they'll still be the only ones that matter.
Right.
And then will truly just be the cattle.
Just working for machines to increase their wealth. Yeah, Envy Warren in the chat. So is this show about the bots or aliens? See, that's
That's
the
what's so
twist.
great about this is I can't believe we're talking about an alien show or an alien, something from the Alien franchise, like in these terms of greater things than just face huggers chest bursting out and trying to live through the next 24 hours before you have to blow your ship up.
Yeah, yeah. The real aliens on Earth are the hybrids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. it's the, like you said, it's higher levels of thinking that I'm just loving that we get to discuss.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Going through notes. God, I think I've hit already most of the things on my notes. That's all excellent.
We've also got like I love how he is like you've got Curly
right
in the room. Twist some knobs, you know, and do you hear it? And she's immediately like, and again, her and Toodles, who becomes Isaac,
right?
I'm a scientist. No, you're not. You are downloading stuff like Neo in the Matrix.
So cool. I would do that in a heartbeat.
I would do it in a second. But it's like he doesn't understand. He still has to have everything explained to him. Like when they're talking about the brainwaves, and he's like, okay, the squiggly lines, you know, suddenly like he's like, you mean the gamma waves? Almost like mocking, like he's placating this kid. He is humoring this kid. Sure. You want to change your name? Sure. I honestly, Kirsch is playing like he's playing a whole different game. I think he's manipulating this situation, I think, to try to come out on top of all this. I was wondering if he is kind of, do synths get worried about being replaced by hybrids?
You know, those are
think about the greater future of other synths.
Because I actually see, it's interesting because I actually see Kirsch as probably the most protective of the kids in his own particular way. He's the one that's actually, well, he seems to, maybe it's just from an education standpoint, is, you know, he seems to be trying to. Oh God, as I'm thinking about it now, I'm almost
like
countering my
studying
own.
them, like almost like he's studying the creatures. Like
Well,
if I can,
he's definitely, but I mean, I saw the thing with Isaac and so on is Kirsch seeing this as an aspiration of childhood. When I grow up, I want to be a scientist, and I'm going to start to study and read all of the things and big stuff that I can. And I think he sees them definitely as a child, but I think there's also much more of a practicality. I mean, even when they were in their ship, he was the one that was like, they've got to stick together. We shouldn't be doing this. You know, we're dealing with an alien invasion. We shouldn't be spread out and doing all that. He does seem to have a little bit more of an on mission viewpoint, and maybe that's just the synthetic part to him. However, as I say that, I don't know what he's going to do with Slightly's plans. He does seem to overhear and figure out what's going on with Slightly, and he goes into the egg chamber afterwards. And I'm like, are you going to stop Slightly, or are you going to observe Slightly? Like you said, is Kirsch going to find a way to kind of get on top of all of this? And in the back of his head, is he thinking, boy, Kavalier might be a good host for an A? We did have that scene, what was it, last week, when he was kind of messing with him. So I am kind of curious. Again, I like him. He does seem to at least be on mission, but he's also seems to be, I don't know. They always make the synths the bad guys, typically. And that was the twist in Aliens, was, I guess, to have Bishop not be another Ash. But
well, we know Slightly's eyeing Joe for the egg treatment.
Totally.
So that's why I'm like, does Kirsch even care who's going to be the face hugger's, best friend for a second?
Sure.
And
that, yeah, I honestly do not know what Kirsch's plan to deal with that information is.
And we've got all these soldiers, but I imagine they're just there to be red shirts when things really go bad.
When it all goes down, and we got to hook up with my group, and then we get this set up, and then
it also, a lot of this does in my brain. See, I'm trying to think: is this an ongoing series, or is this 8 episodes and over? Are we going to be done with this story after? They keep saying season in the podcast. Season 1. We are in season 1. Okay. Are we building? Is this building towards season 2? Because I'm torn into how far this is going to get resolved by the end of this.
How complete is this story, or is this really just going to be the opening move to something larger?
Do we think, are we preparing for this to be over in like 3, because 5's not going to count. 5 is a flashback.
Right. And that gives us 8 episodes. We're halfway through now. So 3 episodes to wrap this up.
3 hours to wrap everything up after episode 5. It can be done, but I guess I really would like to know, is this planning to be an ongoing thing, so that I wish I could unclench some of my brain and not try to think about how they're going to wrap it all up. Noah Hawley wants it to be multiple seasons, is what Bill's saying.
Yeah.
So,
and I think I do remember hearing that, but that when the streaming services order like 1 season at a time, how are we as an audience supposed to know, and how is it to get invested in and even for the creator, how do you know how to finish that season? Does it have to be self-contained? Do you have to leave like a little hint for a sequel season, or
I really wish that they were pulling like a Prime where it's like Fallout season 2 hasn't even come out and they've already greenlit season 3.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not everything is like, yes. Even though this should have already, with the word of mouth already on this, they should have already greenlit, or they should already be saying season 2. When we come back for season 2, I would love for them to just confirm that, to help us, some of us out that are promoting this show without all the free copies of the episodes ahead of time and all this other stuff, that we could like prepare a little bit more. But Kirsch, Cursor, like when he's just standing in the background, does she even know he's there when she's watching her whistle and bond with the lung monster?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, there's another even jumping back to the ownership and people thing, the flippancy of the, well, I don't know what we did with your lung. What the?
what?
So literally, instead of fixing it, you took the lung and then put him in debt by giving him a new lung that now he owes the company's store for. That's seriously effed up stuff. You think the insurance for, yeah, but again, it's corporate. It's all rules. You're all property to be messed with as we wish.
It was a little heavy-handed, that scene, because I feel like, would he really leave his sister there? Or did he really think he was just going to be able to walk out of there after everything that he'd seen and heard already?
Well,
but I think it was
where the dumbing down stuff gets to me, where I'm
exactly.
like, I really feel like you had to, like, all right, well, let's just simplify, short this up, get this thing done so we can convey it to the audience and then move on, as opposed to
that Joe didn't quite understand that he's also property by the conversation he had with Boy Kavalier. And maybe it's because when Boy Kavalier talks, as a guy like Joe, a regular dude, I would have a hard time taking Boy Kavalier seriously when he talks and says certain things. My reaction would be, why don't you shut the fuck up? You little weasel.
Yes.
Like, how about you just come down off of here with your bare feet and we talk about this like men instead. I did really love that they brought up exactly what we talked about.
Yes, I was just going to bring that. Yeah,
you
brought up
the crocodile.
The crocodile. Yeah, they haven't again mentioned Captain Hook, where I think Stego from last week really hit it on. That's definitely Morrow. But yeah, and the ticking of the clock, it's like, oh, sorry, we're actually ahead of you. But it's good to know that we're on the same page. We're dealing with the same symbolism.
And he's really like pushing that Peter Pan narrative. I don't like brothers. I don't like adults. I don't like fathers. I don't like mothers. They're always telling you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, and just like the thing with his feet all the time, like he is Peter Pan through and through. If Peter Pan was a trillionaire narcissist.
Well, that's the hilarious thing that he is ultimately missing from the story of Peter Pan is Peter Pan is an escape from responsibility. That's what Neverland is. Let's go off and play and be goofy. And ultimately you do learn those lessons because that's what life is. You got to deal with crocodiles and pirates and shit like that.
Yeah. And that's what Arthur's talking about.
Right.
The Essie isn't what he's talking about isn't science. Like he's just doing whatever the hell he wants now. We aren't even done working on what we're doing. And she's still trying to make excuses for it.
That conversation between Syvlia and Arthur, I think, was probably the best, like, short, focused, this is what we're talking about kind of scene is, oh, well, again, she's using the excuse of he's accomplished things and he's rich. Therefore, he must be brilliant and okay. It is that honoring of purity, of purpose, of beneficence, of goodness. He's rich, he's powerful, he must be good and thus know what he's doing. Whereas Arthur's on the other side, like, dude, we could have just killed a bunch of kids for all we can know. Let's deal with the reality of what's actually going on. And I think that breadth of perspective is really what this episode is definitely all about. We have high aspirations and we give a lot to people because they've done things. But the reality is we may all be dead right now because we have psychotic AIs that are about to lose their mind and release a bunch of alien invaders that are going to eyeball our heads.
Oh, I love that.
So cool, man, with that sheep.
That poor sheep.
Oh, and it stood up on its back legs and kind of sat down. It was like it was putting on its clothes and getting it all like, all right, just gotta sink into here. Oh, I'm loving that eyeball creature, man. It's so creepy. It's so creepy.
Oh, and okay, so clearly this is probably what's going to happen, right? He wants to have this conversation with a higher intelligence. Who's he going to sacrifice that can talk? Who's he going to let it pop its eye into a human brain so he can have a conversation with it?
Yeah, because it's definitely that's got to be the next step. Everybody is going to want to kill Joe. That's the title of episode 8. Everybody hates Joe.
Well, I mean, he could. There's plenty of people that I think. Well, is there? Like who is Kavalier?
We don't have a lot of known red shirts. Yeah, I mean, there's lab people and there's guards. I mean, when they were walking around, I was like, oh, there's more people around here than I thought there were, because we've only seen basically Joe, Kid, boy Kavalier, his second baldy guy whose name I can't remember, Arthur, Syvlia, Kirsch, and the kids. That's basically it. We've caught 1 or 2 lab people in the back and a couple of guards. So
the bald guy,
yeah,
would this thing try? I guess this thing, if it popped out the eye of an AI, would it be able to work with that? Like, would it be able to communicate through a synth body?
Well, wasn't there a conversation about that it might have been, or was that us afterwards talking about it?
I don't know.
I can't remember what we saw. Or it might, no, I was talking with my wife about it. That's why, because she was wondering that exact thing is, would it be able to connect in with a synthetic brain depending on how it was designed or not? Would it know? Or is that part of what Nibs was freaking out about, is that, oh, did it get in? Is it, could it affect? I would have to assume it's just biological, because that would be way too much of a jump.
And now we've got, so the alien at the end that's like slithering around, is that what it becomes when it doesn't have a full-on host? Is that?
No, I think that is what jumps out. It's kind of like the larger tadpole image, and it grows its legs, because if we remember from the first Alien, when that bursts out of John Hurt's chest, it's basically very sneaky and it takes off. We don't really see if it has legs or is it crawling or what. It is very eel-ish. So I think part of the growth process is growing the legs and the things. I think it just got the DNA tissue out of the lungs, and so that it could get the traditional humanoid warrior form.
Okay, I'm wondering if when we come back, will they have that thing? I don't even know. How do you? Well, I mean, they managed to keep them in Alien Resurrection in pods.
Sure.
So I don't, but they had to use electricity, right? They had to use how do you control this thing from getting out now?
Well, we did learn from Morrow the electricity does seem to be an effective use for it, because that's how he knocked out the first alien, and then used that bag formy gel thing around him, which was cool, but how the hell does that work?
And will Wendy then be able to crack the code in this creature's language to be able to effectively become its queen and direct it to who she would want it to go after?
That would be an interesting direction for this to go in. Yeah, I hadn't quite thought of it going all the way that way, but that would make sense. I mean, I do like how when we do have this alien that does pop out along, very Cobra-ish.
Yes.
with its snake, it's feeling around and that little head and the way it was moving. And it was just like, it was seeing very much like a snake tamer with Wendy in that image there. Again, I think ultimately in some ways that's going to prove how they want to envision the creature, how they want to do it. Is this something that she thinks she can communicate and reason with, but ultimately will be the monster creature that will go after her and the rest of everybody else? Or did they take it in the direction you're talking about there, is she becomes the queen that unleashes that or uses that to get through everything else and whatever obstacles, Boy Kavalier, cops, security forces, whatever. I mean, we've got definitely a lot of, I think, competing interests. As Wendy wants to free them, Boy Kavalier wants to keep them. Kirsch, not really sure what his interest in all of this is. I mean, it's definitely scientific, but who's willing to sacrifice for his science? Who knows? And then, of course, Morrow, who's got to try and get an egg or a face hugger or basically a impregnated human to return back to Utani.
He's still got to get there too.
Yes.
And then we have the image of the doll's head washing up on the beach in the beginning, which I'm not sure what that meant. Do you remember?
No, I remember the image. I mean, it's a, I don't know, childhood lost type kind of image thing. Okay. I'm not I don't know. It may be after like the research station blows up and that is the remaining kids stuff in the detritus that's floating in and out. That may be what we end up doing, or it's a flashback of some sort. It's always hard to tell what they're doing with these images because sometimes they are flash forwards and sometimes they're flashbacks.
Sometimes there are things that are going to happen in the episode.
Right, exactly. But yeah, otherwise, yeah, we're in a real interesting position with Joe being eyed as a host, Wendy chatting with Snake Lizard. Again, don't know what Kirsch is planning, knowing of both Slightly and Morrow's plan, and Nibs, man. I'm really curious what they're going to end up doing with Nibs because she is definitely the unstable one.
Yeah.
And you're right. I don't need to know the backstories, but sometimes it is weird when you're relying on a backstory that the audience isn't aware of in order to tell your tale. It's like, I feel like I'm missing part of the story.
I mean, Noah Hawley isn't Legion. Like Fargo tells us a lot of different, what I mean? Like we see things. They don't, they explain, like they always end up telling. And that's why I'm hoping that it'll like Hawley's bigger picture will always pan out. Because a lot of times I have these complaints and then the show will immediately answer it like a minute later. And you go, oh, okay, this is a sign of a good show. When you have a question that doesn't seem to have a logical answer, they answer it for you. Mm-hmm. So I still have faith that wherever this is going to go, it'll still, but right now, yeah, there's a few elements that.
Yeah, I also have a lot of faith in Hawley to pull this off and to make it work. And instead, so much of this is great. Some of it feels like nitpicking, but it's the kind of nitpicking, like I said, that everything else is so good. It's like, why is this here? Yeah. Okay, Bill, I'm loving Bill. Quoting Arthur C. Clarke and saying it's Asimov, and that is the technology far advanced is indeterminable from magic. That was Boy that said that, wasn't it?
It was Boy that said that, yes. And we immediately were like, that sounds like somebody, like an Elon Musk type of person who would pull some quote from somewhere that he had in his head and not even know like where he really got it, like where the actual information comes from. And yeah, it's great. That was it's such a blink and you'll miss it moment that a lot of people that probably don't know that it wasn't Asimov. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's but for those that do know,
right?
It's like that's a 1% like quote misquote.
Well, and it is funny in the sense because Asimov did the whole series of robot books and he did the three rules of robotics and things like that they do kind of like play and mess around with. But no, that's Arthur C. Clarke. And you're right. That is one of those perfect things of like, you're not as smart as you think you are. You portray a lot. I mean, he's obviously accomplished so that he is smart, but it is one of those things, like you said, I think it's one of those perfect little just snuck in comments to go, not quite on top of things as he says he is. A little bit more of a performance and not as much substance as you may think.
Wonder if, and this is just, now we're getting into like just, whatever.
We got 5 minutes.
What if the eye creature goes inside Boy Kavalier and actually has a conversation with Kirsch? Like, this guy wanted to have like the most intelligent conversation you could have, and in your, how does it feel to be inside the mind of a genius?
See, there could be a hilarious commentary out of that. Yeah, of like, yeah, I took over this person. He thought he was so smart, but you know something? He really just steals his ideas, or something where this eye creature is obviously hyper intelligent and just looks down at this meat husk that Boy Kavalier is, thinking that 5 minutes ago he was the most intelligent thing in the room. There could be some great commentary to make out of that, and it would fit within the framework of everything that we're talking about. Who's a person, who deserves rights, who deserves who deserves freedom and consideration. Most of us tend to think that, well, everybody does. But strangely enough, the higher you get up on the ladder, the smaller that group ends up being.
Yeah. And what are you willing to do and think and make excuses for to stay near that person's orbit so that, you can be kind, like, maybe I'll be a person, like, if I'm close to them, maybe I don't know.
Well, yes, but it does run counter with our other previous slightly messages. Everybody needs friends.
Yeah.
If nobody's a person to you, then you don't have any friends. And friends are what's going to get you through those hard times, is you need to rely on people. So that may end up being part of the commentary that we end up having at the end of this season, at least, hopefully. We'll find out. But yeah, next week, man, we're going back in time, back in space, to find out what actually happened to our ship, who sabotaged it, and probably a few other surprises before we get back and resume our adventure with the hybrids and the aliens on Prodigy Island. All right, so big thanks to Envy Warren and Bill Casey joining us live in the chat. Now, Rob's been playing a lot of games. You should check over there, man. Those run-throughs are a blast. What are you playing right now there, Rob?
Star Wars Outlaws. I'm just figuring out all the complications. That is a very dense game that gives you lots of options and choices and ways to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult. It's difficult to like. It's one of those games where I'm like, I'll start something over because I'm like, no, I can do better. I can do better. I want to do this like this. I'm failing. I'm going to go back. Can I even do this? Do I have to go find this first? So that's a bit of chaos. We're playing Astrobot.
Nice.
We're also playing our Baldur's Gate 3 Vox Machina campaign. We've been playing it a little slower because my schedule is crazy and I've got a lot of work and other things going on. So we just finished Assassin's Creed Shadows, but that's kind of about it. I mean, I was playing Mass Effect, but these other games started to take their place. I'll probably still be playing that. When you get a new toy, you know, sometimes you put the old toy on the shelf and you go, I'll get back to it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like before we go, did you want to say anything about the premiere of Peacemaker?
I was just about to dive into that. Thank you, thank you. Perfect transition is yeah. I had talked about that I was doing reviews of Peacemaker. My schedule being what it is, I have not been able to do it. I will at a point definitely want to have a chat with it. Maybe a mid-season and then maybe a finale. Maybe we'll just do something at the very end. But yeah, man, I think Cena was made to play this role. I think he is perfect. I think he's over his career developed a large enough range that works with the confines of this character perfectly. And I thought they made a choice to take this season in a beautiful, unexpected direction. If I may say, this is how you do fucking multiverses, man. This was really cool and really emotional. Not what I expected off of their premiere episode.
Didn't even realize that it's been over 3 years since that show since season 1. It's a long time.
That is a long time, yeah.
A really long time. And Cena's looking, you're right, he's like Ryan Reynolds in Deadpool. He's looking a little old at this point. It doesn't take me out of it. It's just, I don't know. I feel like the plot's pretty predictable so far. I can see where it's going. I mean, I killed Rick Flag Sr.'s son. Spoilers, by the way, for Peacemaker season 2 premiere. If you haven't seen it, click off now. He kills himself. And so all I'm thinking is he's going to do the thing that's been done to death. Maybe not in this way because we're dealing with multiverses, but like if you can't stick around in your own universe because someone's gunning for you, how about you go try the other universe and pretend to be the other guy until you get caught?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm going to step into that guy's shoes, and it's going to be another way to avoid consequences of your actions. Maybe I could just slip into some other world, and when you're him from your world, how long do you actually have before you slip up?
Yeah, when you seem to have pulled the bad card your entire life, and you suddenly run into a world where, man, it was all different. Yeah, that's a heck of a pull. And the fact that they hit the emotion of, again, spoilers, he kills his brother when he's a kid. He kills his dad last season. Then he kills himself now. He's literally killed his entire family. It's like he is just literally like death incarnate, and he's trying so hard to be something better and to get that temptation. You're right. Of, do I go back to the world that hates me, or do I go to a world that loves me? And what is the real, obviously challenge within that?
It's about accepting consequences.
Yeah.
And and there's a lot, what she's going through, what happened on the boat, which, I mean, if you have to say what happened on the boat, what happened on the boat.
Yeah. Again, nice way of saying it without saying it.
Which is funny because we saying it without saying it and showing it, although they showed a hell of a lot than I really.
Yeah, I was like, well, it's HBO.
Well, it made me think of what they were doing when they first started making DC stuff on HBO. And it's like, oh, we can say all the words and we can do all the things because we're here. And it felt, even for James Gunn, that felt a little more gratuitous than it needed to be.
Yeah, I agree.
It was like he says it on the podcast, and I listened to their podcast for it just to see, because I didn't love this premiere. I thought that the end was really interesting, but their conversation felt like they weren't explaining things. They were just saying, remember when we did this?
Oh.
And I'm more like, yeah, oh, this is what they expect. This is the show that you can shock people with. And I'm like, you're better than that.
Yeah, there's
So,
shock and there's
and
gratuitousness,
and just on a personal note, I mean, I guess I don't really have to say this, but there's a couple of people on the show that I really wish they'd one. I wish they had kept dead, so that we didn't have to see the actor again. And I'm not the biggest Frank Grillo fan because, again, it's more of a the person, not the character.
Sure.
That I don't really like. So I've got a couple of people on that show that I have a hard time with on a personal level of their politics, who they are as people.
Sure.
On a show that's progressive and they as people aren't. And I just, again, that part of my brain can't get there. But
No,
hey, I mean,
at a show where the hero is like, yeah, man, I suck dick good. That's a skill, man. That's not talking down.
But
I love that.
To be fair, everybody has to work with people that you don't jive with or line up with, and that's part of being a part of all of this, is being able to be around people that you don't agree with, but at the same time, we all have to figure out how to live with each other. So if there's anything, I guess, about this show, it's that even this show tolerates people of different viewpoints, and you can still make a good product.
Is the funny thing about the Frank Grillo casting with as Flag Senior is he's actually almost old enough to be Joel Kinnaman's dad. He's like 15 or 16 years older than him. And I'm like, well, that doesn't look. I would never have guessed that, but I guess good actual casting.
Well, Bill and I just watched the first 3 episodes of Creature Commandos 2.
Right.
I don't know if you watched it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like GI Robot's the man.
Okay, we stopped after that episode because I was like, okay, I don't care where else this show goes. We got to see GI Robot killing Nazis, or more to the effect, we got to see him go after incels and the chuds and the horrible people that we're dealing with today that gladly are ruining our days in this planet and this country on a daily basis. And GI Robot got to take them all out in glorious fashion. I was like, mic drop. Yeah. The show doesn't exist past episode 3 as far as I'm concerned.
And you're good. You're good, honestly. Yep.
Just,
would you like to kill Nazis with GI Robot? GI Robot would love to kill Nazis with you.
When they did the flashback and he's with the guy played by Michael Rooker, and he's at all this memorabilia, and I'm telling Bill, I'm like, this guy's gonna end up being a Nazi. And then they go to the meeting and he's like, there's people of a like mind. And I was like, oh, I'm right. And they pull out, we are part of the socialist whatever. And the robot just is like, oh no. Well, that's my programming.
It's you don't know if you could actually see a robot smile when it has a fixed smirk, but when GI Robot is smiling. Sorry, we did a quick, it's a total Creature Commandos veer off of Peacemaker right there. But yeah, so probably we'll talk about it, but you're right. And I have to admit, I needed the first 3 episodes of season 1 to really fall in love with this show. The first premiere episode, I was like, what the hell am I in for? So I'm definitely giving it a lot of room because of what it was able to accomplish. And I do like the ideas of where they might be playing with all this. I like the fact they gave actually Harcourt some real issues to deal with. The fact that she herself deals with toxic masculinity it's like, yeah, that's Peacemaker right there. That's exactly it. I'm excited to see where the season's going to go. But yeah, definitely we won't be talking about it week to week, but we'll probably catch a summation towards the end of it.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Let's stick it around for that extra little rant there. Otherwise, folks, we will see you next week. So long. Take care. Like GI Robot says, watch out for those Nazis.